Hi, I'm Amy from Amy Designs, and today I'm here to walk you through all the steps to make my beach chair block. This block is free until August 15th of 2025. If you're watching it after then, it will be available for purchase in my shop. I'll have the links below where you can find this block. It is such a fun one. I think it would make such a great pillow for your outdoor pool area, or if you had a beach house, or just for fun to celebrate summer. And it would make a darling tote. This block finishes at 18 inches square, and it's a lot of fun to put together. It's pretty straightforward. There's just a couple of half rectangle triangles. So I wanted to walk you through all of the steps to make sure you didn't miss anything and to make sure that it comes together nice and easy for you. I'm gonna share all my tips and tricks, and we're gonna get started. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is your fabric. Now, I am using mostly basics here, a lot of solids and a couple of, you can see on the beach down here, it is a sparkler fabric from Melissa Mortensen. It's really easy to work with solids with this one. You don't have to worry about directionality at all. If you're doing the chair, directionality is fine. Your umbrella, even your scallop for the umbrella, it's pretty straightforward because the stitch and flip is on the half rectangle triangles. But for your sky and for your ocean in particular, I would strongly recommend a solid or something non-directional. The other tip I'm going to give you is to starch your fabrics pretty well before you get started. It really helps these seams, especially these angled seams, lay nice and flat. And that way you can make sure that everything comes together just how you want it to. When you are sewing your scallops together here, make sure you're using a true 1/4 of an inch seam allowance to make sure that the ends here line up just how you want them to. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward, and all the directions are going to be in the PDF that you get for this block. So make sure that you are paying attention when I talk in the video about directionality. There are some rights and lefts here, so you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that to make sure that you have all the arms in the right places on your chairs and that your scallops come out just the right way that you want them to. Other than that, I think it's pretty fun. We're going to get started. Let's sew. We're going to start our block by making the top of our umbrella. To begin, that is the trickiest part of the whole thing, is we have a couple of half rectangle triangles to do here. Now, they're not hard. It just takes a little flip in your head, because when you're used to doing half square triangles, you place them directly on top of each other. But with half rectangle triangles, you have to offset them a little bit. So we're going to walk through all of those steps. We're going to begin by taking one of our rectangles here, and the measurements are, of course, in the pattern. And we are going to begin by drawing our diagonal line. And if you read the directions, it's going to tell you we're supposed to go from the top right to the bottom left. Now, obviously, this is a solid, and so there's not any directionality to the fabric, but there is a directionality to your rectangle. So make sure that your rectangle is facing in the measurements with the width and the height is written in the pattern. So the width gives you the length, and then the height is the top and the bottom. Okay, so just to clarify that. Now I'm just going to use a mechanical pencil here, and I am going to draw my diagonal line from the top right to the bottom left. Okay, now I am going to take this to my umbrella top fabric, which is this yellow honey fabric right here. And I am going to arrange this so that these diagonal lines connect, but they're offset. So this corner that is the top right is actually going to line up with the bottom right corner of this yellow honey fabric. And then I'm going to rotate this rectangle until this diagonal line connects on the opposite side of this yellow honey fabric. Now that measurement, it should be the width of this piece of fabric. So it should be, this is 8.5 inches here. So this is 8.5 inches tall. This should be 8.5 inches, but it looks really funny. It looks really wonky. It looks really scary right now. And you think, I don't know if this is going to work. So if you are feeling nervous and anxious about this, my recommendation is to just give it a little test. fold it over on your drawn line, which is where you're going to sew, and flip it up and just make sure, yep, that actually does make a half rectangle triangle. All right, so we're gonna put this back, make sure that our lines are lined up with this bottom corner here and connecting to this top edge here. I'm going to stick a couple of pins in that. Take this to my machine. That is a dull pin. Try a new pin. I'm going to take this to my machine and I am going to sew directly on this drawn line. Then I'm going to trim 1/4 inch away and press this blue fabric up and away. So I will bring this back. I'm going to sew it first and then I'll show you what it looks like to trim and press. Okay, I have this sewn right on that drawn line. Now I'm going to take my ruler here. Now, again, if you're nervous, this is a great time to go ahead and just audition that again. Make sure that it really is lined up how it's supposed to be, which it is. All right, and we're going to trim just a scant 1/4 inch away from that sewn line. And then I'm just going to bring this to my pressing mat here. And I'm going to go ahead and I like to set my seam here with a little bit of heat. And then I'm going to just press that up right on that diagonal line. Now, again, this is on a diagonal, so it's on the bias. You want to be careful as you press that you're not stretching that seam at all if you can avoid it. But there we go. We have our first side of our umbrella top done. Now we have one more half rectangle triangle to go. And again, even though this is solid, because it's a rectangle, there is directionality to it. So we do want to make sure when you're at this step in the directions that you are reading, following closely as you draw these lines. So this second rectangle, we are going to draw our line from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. And again, it does matter. It will not work if you draw two the same way. They will not line up. So make sure top left, bottom right, draw your line here. And then again, we are going to take this top corner. We are going to line it up with the bottom corner on that same side and then rotate our rectangle here until it is lined up with the top of our rectangle. Now, in this case, these are overlapping a little bit, which is what we want because we want the seam allowance so that we don't cut off the top of our umbrella. So we are going to go ahead and just make sure that all of this is lined up. If you want to double check, again, use your grid or your ruler to measure over from the end of your yellow honey piece of fabric and make sure that it is stretching across the right direction to make sure you have the all lined up the right way. And then again, we're going to pin it in place, sew it, trim it, and press it. And then we will have the very top almost complete, but definitely the two trickiest parts done. We do have two more half rectangle triangles to go in the umbrella, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I'm going to go sew, press, and I'll be back. The final step to complete our umbrella top is to add our two skinny rectangles to either side of the umbrella top, and then to take our long sky piece and sew it to the top. You're going to use your regular 1/4 inch seam, simple sew and press. Next, we're going to move on to the scallop portion of our umbrella. We're going to need some of our light yellow fabric strips. We are also going to need some of our ocean colored fabrics here as well. So we are going to start with one of our longer, so there are two long and one shorter strips to create the scalloped bottom. So we're going to start with one of the longer ones, and we are going to take one of our ocean pieces, double check the measurements. There's a lot of similarly sized pieces. And again, because we're talking about a rectangle here, you want to make sure that it is aligned according to the measurements in the pattern. So the width and the height create the top and the bottom and the sides. So we are going to draw this diagonal line from the top right corner to the bottom left corner of this rectangle. I like to use the tip of my mechanical pencil to help me find the center of that top to make sure I'm accounting for the width of my lead. Just little things. It's not essential, but it does help. Okay, so then we are going to line up the top right corner of this raindrop fabric piece with the top left corner here. And then again, we're going to rotate until those match. Now, again, the distance from this side to where this corner hits should be the same distance as the width of this raindrop piece. So in this case, it's 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure those are lined up. I'm going to pin and sew that piece. Once we have that half rectangle triangle done on that side, we are going to take one of these small squares of our ocean fabric, draw a diagonal line on the back side of it. We are going to then put it on the opposite corner of the half rectangle triangle. And then again, we're going to sew on that line, cut and press. Then we're going to repeat for the second long piece of our scallop fabric with our second rectangle here. Now again, this is a place where you really want to watch the directions on the pattern. We are drawing our line from the top left to the bottom right this time. So again, I'm going to use my pencil, mark that diagonal. This time we are sewing this onto the right side of our scallop fabric piece. So again, I'm going to line up that top corner, rotate it so that it matches. And again, I'm going to go ahead and use my grid here just to make sure that everything is lining up. Now, if you noticed on this one that we sewed, this top angle gets pretty skinny. So you want to be careful as you press that you're not distorting and stretching it. It might be helpful to use a quilter's clapper after you press that to just add some pressure to it as it cools to help that lay a little bit more flat. It's just a pretty narrow angle up there at the top. Okay, getting this in place, pin it, sew it, and then again, we are going to repeat by adding a second square to the opposite lower corner here to create our two longer scalloped pieces. And then the final scalloped piece just has two rectangles. Again, draw your diagonal line and they will go onto the two bottom corners of that piece. Once those are pressed, we are going to arrange them with our half rectangle triangle on the right-hand side, then our short middle scalloped section, and then our half rectangle triangle on the left-hand side. And sew those together. And then we are going to add our additional two rectangles of ocean fabric on either side. And then the scalloped section of our umbrella is finished. When we go to sew the arm pieces of our chairs, we are going to make two skinny sections of our chairs. And those are the sections of the chairs that will go towards the stand of our umbrella. Then we're going to make two wider arm sections, and those will go towards the outside of the block. Now we need to make sure that we have one right and one left skinny section and one right and one left wide section so that we have two arms for two chairs that are mirror images of each other. So at this stage, it's important that you pay attention to the directionality written into the instructions so that you end up with the right number of arms in the right directions. Our first one, we are going to take our skinny piece of beach fabric here, and we're going to sew our arm piece to the left side of the first one and then to the right side of the second one. Now that we have our left and our right pieces sewn together, then we are going to take our small squares of ocean fabric and sew them to the tops, and our skinny rectangles of beach fabric and sew them to the bottoms. And that way we'll have our left and our right skinny arm pieces. Then we are going to do our wide arm pieces. Again, we are going to take our beach fabric here. This is our wider skinny rectangle here. And we're going to take our chair fabric, and one piece is going to get sewn to the left of our beach fabric and one will be sewn to the right of that beach fabric. Then we are going to take our ocean rectangles and sew them to the tops, and our beach squares and sew them to the bottoms. So now we have our left and right wide arm pieces. Now we're going to begin assembling our chairs. We're going to start with the legs of our chairs. We're going to take our wide but 1.5 inch tall, 3.5 inch wide pieces of beach fabric here. And then we are going to take our 2 chair leg pieces and we are going to put them on either side of that sand colored beach rectangle. So we're going to sew those on either side. Once those are sewn, we are going to sew them to the bottoms of our main chair pieces. And we are going to get to that point and start our 2 chairs. Now that we have our chair arm pieces and our chairs all sewn up, we're going to assemble our chairs. We are going to take our 2 chair pieces here, and we are going to remember that there is going to be an umbrella stand in between. So our skinny arms need to go here and your arm piece needs to go towards the chair. So our left side skinny arm is going to go here and our right side skinny arm is going to go here. And then again with our wide pieces, making sure that the chair part of this piece is heading towards the chair with the wide pieces on the outside, the skinny pieces on the inside, and then we're going to sew those up. Once those are sewn, then we are going to take our long strips of our ocean piece and they are going to go on the tops of our 2 chair pieces. And then we are going to sew our umbrella stand in between our 2 chair pieces. Now that we have all our sections done, it's time to just assemble them together. So we're going to take our umbrella top and we're going to take our umbrella scallop piece and sew them together. And then we are going to take scooch these up a little, our beach chair block and our strip of sand fabric and sew those together so that we have our whole block done. So that's it. That is our beach chair block. It is super fun. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, or you can find me on Instagram at Amorini Designs and send me a message. I'm happy to help you. If you've enjoyed this block, I hope you'll like and subscribe my channel. And until I see you next time, happy sewing, friends.